Hello, hello. We're starting off with a wonderful spill by me. So I'm gonna have to get a new filter and coffee prepped. Now I can salvage that coffee. We'll just brush it into a dosing cup and use it. I leaned over to change the direction of the. I'm scared to touch the mic because the mic stand's a little fragile right now, and I don't know why. So you know what? Let's see if I can just hide. Nope. And like I said, fragile. Now it's right here. I need to fix that. That is how you like me now? Maybe we can just be like a podcaster with it on the side. Is audio good? If it's good like this, we can just chill like this. Because it doesn't really bother me. All right. This is Unfiltered. Google will fix it tomorrow when we film. It is what it is. I need to get a new filter because that one is bad now. Let me re-wash this real quick. And we'll re-go with a what's up, everyone? Lance Hedrick here. And tonight we're going to talk all things coffee. You know, I had a little inspiration on something I want to do with this channel going forward. It's been a while since I've done anything here. Now, normally I don't do these publicly. These are for my Patreon members, my crew, my Discord peeps. I've been doing a lot of lives just for Discord in Discord lately, and it had me thinking I'm still going to do a lot of lives here for Patreon and then post them, of course, as YouTube Unfilters. But I was thinking it could be really cool to have some other ways of streaming here. I've been really wanting to, I go to a lot of these coffee events, and I know a lot of you don't get to go to those events. And so I was thinking I could be one of those lame streamers and bring you along for some of them. So I have, a little Rode mic, and I could use a gimbal with my phone just so you all can join me at these different events. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that at the SCA Expo in Houston for one day. Just kind of walk around streaming. It'll be lower visual quality because I'll be using my phone, but I'll have a nice Rode mic, so the audio should be solid. But that's something I was thinking about doing kind of going forward. I want to do more stuff with this channel, especially as we're about to hit 20,000 subscribers. So if you are somehow on this video and you haven't subbed yet, well, what the frick? You're holding me back from 20,000 subs. All right, so here's all the coffee that spilled when I leaned up to adjust the camera. And now I'm going to use it in my V60 because I've replaced the filter. Let's just scoop it right into it. Very scientific. Ooh, that's going to get messy. So we need to actually put it into something a little bigger, and then we'll transfer from bigger to smaller. There we go. There she blows. There it is. I'm a genius. All right. So there we go. Let's see how much coffee I actually salvaged. Where did I put it? There it is. Let's see what we have now. After the spill and ensuing cleanup. No way I lost 6 grounds. Oh, it's because there's some more in this original filter. Okay, now I've only lost 0.7. That's much more tolerable. All right, let's brew up a cup. If you are watching and you are in a time zone where it's nice to drink a cup of coffee, brew up a cup of coffee with me. Let's sip coffee together. All right, so let's check on the chat. Yeah, so essentially the idea is, I'm going to I think I'm going to get a gimbal and look like a lunatic at these events. Which I don't really like. I don't like the idea of walking around with a gimbal. I usually like to have Ugo with me if I'm filming at events, but a lot of these he's not able to go to. Like the one in Houston, it'll be just me. And so I was thinking I could do a little, couple-hour streaming session, walking around, letting people see the equipment, the stands, the booths, the people, what kind of goes down, just kind of unfiltered stream sesh. And then I could kind of cut out some of the fluff if, I stop to eat or something. But yeah, anyway, I think that'd be kind of a fun thing. I want to, like I said, I want to kind of revamp again this channel because it's an awesome channel. I really enjoy using it. But it's been a little nuts, especially since I've really started, working out and doing all that stuff. It's eaten up my evening time. And so I'm going to have to figure out a new way, like when I can do this. On Saturdays and Sundays, the gym closes at 8, so I'm done by 8. But so I can, like right now it's 10:15 p.m., which is primo time for me to stream, because that's when I'm firing all cylinders. All right, audio is good. Hi guys, greetings from the Netherlands. Nice, sounds good. Good. Let's see. Morning, howdy y'all. Can I ask, why would my port filter spin out when pulling a shot? If you don't have it locked in all the way. How much coffee do I have in it? This should be good. Yeah, if you don't have it locked in all the way, the pressure is going to cause it to spin out. Or if your gasket is not holding it well, a lot of other things like that. Man vs. Machine from Munich. Love it. Let's see. Man vs. I'm having a really hard time trying to choose between the K Ultra and ZP6. 90% Pourover and the rest is AeroPress, Mocha Pot, and Flair Neo occasionally. Really lean towards ZP6. Yeah, I mean, if you're 90% filter, I don't think there's any question. I go ZP6. All the other ones will be solid with it. Would they be a little better with the K Ultra? Maybe because they're more blendy, but I think they're going to be great regardless. Let's see. Okay. Hello from Sydney. I'm about to brew up a nice cup of washed Ethiopia. Love it. Where am I from? I am from the United States. I grew up in Tennessee, but I currently live in Europe. Aliens from Wales. Aloha from Thailand. I'm buying a Zerno, drinking mostly light roast for espresso. What burrs on the Zerno would you recommend? Multi-purpose for sure. Yeah. Can you talk Bloom, please? I have a whole video on Bloom, Adam. What your instincts tell you while you're watching it. What makes you decide to pour and move on with the method? Yeah, great question. So essentially, whenever I created I called it the 1-2-1, mostly because it's catchy, and I found that like people like catchy things. You know what I mean? It helps them remember. It helps them do all this stuff. Anyway, 1-2-1 is less of a strict recipe because I don't believe in strict recipes because I think strict recipes are silly. There's no way you're going to replicate the results of someone else's recipe with your coffee, your setup, your grinder, et cetera, forever and ever. Amen. Matching grind sizes is an impossibility unless you have the identical grinder. And even then, the likelihood of the alignment being slightly different is very high. So, and the calibration point. So there's just no real point in sharing exact recipes. So instead, I wanted to share kind of a framework. And the framework is you do 2 pours and the rest of it's intuition based. So the length, but always 3 times the weight of your dose with your bloom. So if you do a 15-gram dose and a 45-gram bloom, 20-gram dose, 60-gram bloom. And then you pour the rest of the water in with your second pour. Now, the variables here are grind size, water temperature, the pour speed / pour height, the length of the bloom, and then whether or not you add any manual agitation. So with bloom, that is a very important question. Normally what I do when I'm intuiting a coffee, I have a coffee for the first time, is I consider the roast level and the roast date. If it's an uber light coffee and I'm opening it 2 weeks because I'm an idiot and I can't be patient, then I'm going to let it bloom for a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And that's because really lightly roasted coffee has much smaller pores, meaning there's a lot more carbon dioxide trapped inside, meaning it's going to take a lot more degassing before it's able to extract the goodies. And that's why you might see coffees taste under extracted if they're super, super fresh, but also they might seem, they have like that carbony taste that like, they may even taste roasty, even if they're incredibly light roast. And you'll notice the roastiness kind of goes away with time. So I may let it do 2 minutes, or if it seems a bit more gassy, like if it's not ultralight but it's very light, but it's very gassy, I may do a second one. If there's quite a bit of foam being created on that first pour, like I noticed there's a thick crust being formed, I'll do a second minor bloom. So actually I'll go away from the 1-2-1 a little bit. So there are times I'll add a second pour and I won't even match the bloom size for the most part. It literally is just to break the crust up and allow the gas to continue coming out during my bloom time. So normally if it's a 15-gram dose, I'll do a 45-gram bloom. And if I notice there's like a thick crust forming, I might pour in like another 30 grams of water or something. The amount is not super important, but I'll pour in a bit just to let that gas kind of release and continue the nice saturation of the grounds without carbon dioxide being caught. Then I'll pour the rest of the water in. Now, so as I'm brewing, if I notice the water goes through really quickly because the coffee is not absorbing it super fast, then I'm going to let it bloom a lot longer, because the water that did sit there needs to really work its way through because it lost all the water. If I pour water in during the bloom and it tends to kind of sit there, I'm not going to let it bloom that long, because I know my overall pour over time is going to take a lot longer. So in order to lessen the contact time, I need to pour the second pour essentially at 30 seconds or even sooner, maybe. And I was going to say a B, but I've lost my train of thought because I want some coffee. So I've got coffee. I couldn't find a decanter. They're inside the house. I don't know why. And I have to carry them all out, and I didn't. So I just use I don't know why I have this glass out here, but I do. And it acts as a decanter. So we're going to do it to it. Let me put this filter here. So what I've brewed up, because I know people are wanting to ask, since it's late, it's mostly a decaf, but I did spike it with a little bit of a Nestor Lasso coffee, just a couple of grams, just a little zhush in there. Even though the decaf itself is very fruity, I thought, I'm going to turn the fruit up to 11. Why not? Ew, and that's nice. Let's see. Okay, no P's. All right. Mind your P's and Q's. Would it be worth charging my gasket? Yeah, sure. If locking it in further is not helping, absolutely. Can you talk more about how you brew iced filter coffee? I don't. And if I do, like if my wife wants it or something, I do what I did in my video, just for simplicity, so I don't have to prep anything. You can use frozen steel balls, but that assumes you have frozen steel balls. So I guess if you're always brewing them, then yeah, use that, because then you have to dilute. But someone gave me $10. Oh, thank you so much. That is very kind. Wow. But yeah, I would say just do that recipe. Using your 1 cup 1:16 ratio V60 recipe on my Zerno with cast V2 and MPV2 around 600 microns from Bercher. Boulders on sides unless I swirl tons and have fast drawdowns. Is grind size okay? T90 filters and light roast. The first question is, does it taste good? I wouldn't worry. One of the big things that people worry about is their brew time, and that's not really something I stress very much, and it's because I don't think it matters too much if the taste is nice, right? If it's faster. If it's a really long drawdown, I usually am not liking those cups, and it's not just because 8-minute drawdown I don't like it. It's usually because there's a correlation between really long contact time and muted aromas, lessened acidity, other compounds that are coming out that are more time-based in their extraction, as opposed to temperature or agitation or anything like that. So yeah, I would say something like that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So with yours, with boulders on the side, that can happen likely due to really fresh coffee. I know that kind of sounds weird, but I have noticed over the years that the fresher the coffee is, the more boulders will cling to the top of the walls. And it's because they're pushing out that carbon dioxide, and it seems to kind of be sticky for that paper, and it sticks. I guarantee you, if you let that coffee rest a lot, it won't be doing that. But if you need to swirl and the drawdowns are still fine, I would just recommend doing that for sure. Little brother. And it's Hedrick, not Hendrix. I'm not Jimmy. Not me. But anyway, hi, I have a K Ultra, but looking to get a used 078 or DF83V for espresso and put SSP burrs in. While I experience a massive taste difference compared to the K Ultra, light roasted espresso. I have a K Ultra. If you're doing light roasted espresso, then you would need a used 078S first of all. And then if you use either one of those with stock burrs, no, you're not going to have a massive difference. That's just no, you're not. Let's see. I'll send some of the Nestor Lasso decaf I roast. It works so well with the regular version as a half calf. Ooh, I like that. And you roast? Hello. Actually, I feel like I remember you saying that in a previous Discord call. I like traditional espresso, Italian, sweet chocolate, caramel with low no acidity. Can you rec a sub 1K grinder for that taste profile? Yeah, come on. Yes, I like mostly light and mostly uber light coffees, but I also really like there's one specific coffee I found that I like, and I've plugged it a lot on this channel. Well, not this channel, my main channel, which by the way, if you're watching this and you haven't subbed to the Unfiltered channel, let's pop this. I want to hit 20K. My original thought was I'm going to stream till I hit 20K, but then I looked and I'm like 250 subs away. That's not going to happen tonight. But That would be it would be like a 12-hour stream or something. Anyway, I really like Saka's Crema Bar. It is my the only Italian roast that I actually enjoy. It's like it's got this toasted marshmallow thing about it. Yes, there's burnt notes to it, low to no acidity, but it's nice. I like it. Anyway, so I'm very much I know what grinders to use. You know what I'm saying? I genuinely think that the Eureka Specialita for a sub 1000, that's even like you can get it on sale sometimes for like 500, 400 bucks. The Specialita does a great job with it. And because you're not as concerned with being anal with like single dosing and all that stuff, you can hopper feed that, and it is a good time. And I think the texture from a Eureka Specialita, granted, I don't love the ergonomics of it. The build quality is great, but the texture of it, the mouthfeel of it, far exceeds any comparably priced conical grinder. A lot of people have blown out of proportion this idea that cones are chocolate. Nyah, nyah, nyah. Listen, people say that because cones can't really do other things. And so they're like, well, it has to do something, so it does chocolate, and it must do it better. No, flats are better at chocolate as well, if it's designed for that purpose. So when you're looking at sub 1K, I'd say let's go sub 500, get a Specialita. Yes, there are quirks with it, with the workflow. Build quality, though, excellent. Taste, texture, that's the big thing, is cones. A lot of these cones, this has always been my biggest issue with the niche. The texture on it is not good. People are like, you can get thick shots. Yeah, if you use dark roast with heavy crema. But the thing is body is not only relegated to lipids and polysaccharides, which is what we're getting in that crema that's causing us to experience body. You can get crema on a blade grinder, okay? Yes, you get some thick crema with a niche, but so you with everything else. That's a silly argument. No, in reality, there are other things contributing to the body, like microfines or the different distribution of the microfines. But not only that, there are chemical reactions that have recently been hypothesized that are going on in the mechanoreceptors on our palate. And I think this is actually a key to unlocking a lot of the body, the tactile that we're loving. Like, for instance, we could have 4 different filter coffees all side by side, all the same concentration TDS, and someone could taste one and say, this has like a milk texture, this one tastes like water, right? But they're the same concentration. So what is actually causing that difference? There's some chemical reactions going on. Anyway, I think that there is with the Specialita, I think it does a superb job with darker roasted coffees. Superb. But you could also do the Oro 65 or whatever it's called. That's a little more expensive if you want a more expensive one. I just think the Specialita at its price and the difference in quality for darker roast between the 55 and the 65 is so minimal. All you're really stepping up with is like grind time. So, all right, this coffee is pretty dang good. Hi from Athens. Nice. Did you try shutting down the thermal control just before brewing the coffee? With the cause it doesn't cause it to decrease, but it doesn't really have that tick at the end. And here's another thing, something I didn't think about, or I have thought about, I just didn't think to say it in the video, is whenever you brew the way I showed, which I recommended, which is pouring in water while the lever's already up, if you brew that way, that is so much liquid in the reservoir, the likelihood of you needing all of it is very, very, very low. So your experience of the flick is probably not going to happen. The probability of that temperature flick happening is much higher if you fill with the lever all the way down, because you have less volume, so you're likely using it all. Okay. Now, Andrew, who used to work for Flair, now works with Weber, messaged me and was like, if you let it preheat with the lever up, it's different. I've done that, though, and I get the same temperature reading. So I don't think that's really a change. He said the heating collar is at the top, so you let it preheat with the lever up. I've done that. There's no difference with the temp readings, really. But what is true is if you use more water than you need, then that flick is likely going to be happening on water you don't use. So it's probably a good idea. Let's see. Thanks for the suited reco. I said hi to the guys for you. Thank you, Gabrielle. That is so sick. I love me some suited. Lynch, try to come to Italy and drink dark roast in the right surrounding. Oh no, I will, little brother. I will. I'm planning this year, probably later this year. So I'll tell you. I'll tell you some exciting video ideas that I have coming up this year that I'm really excited about. Like very excited about. One is I'm going to fly myself and Ugo out to Napoli Naples, whatever, to Naples. And we are going to do like a coffee. It's gonna be more of a vlog based thing. I want to do some more travel vlog type stuff because I'm going on these trips a lot, and like I like doing things I enjoy. I love traveling. I love seeing new coffee cultures. I love not new, obviously one in Naples isn't new, but I love seeing new to me coffee cultures as far as the experience. I love sharing it. I just love doing things that I enjoy doing. So I'm going to fly us to Naples, and we're going to like go check out some of the local manufacturers. We're going to go check out local cafes. We're going to talk about the mythology surrounding the water in Naples and why people say it's the best espresso in the world based off of the volcano, blah, blah, blah. So it's going to be a fun time. So that will definitely happen later this year. I don't know when, because I have some crazy travel stacked up. I'm also going to go up to Noma, and they're gonna do a little video on their coffee program. So that's something else I'm really excited about. I also just got the data back on a project I did with Dr. Samo Smirke out in Zurich, and so I'll be filming that this week. So hopefully that'll come out next week at some point. But yeah, lots of exciting stuff going on. I also finally found the lever sister of my Emmy Arietti. So that just arrived yesterday. Someone brought it in the trunk of their car from Barcelona. You know, is what it is. If you want to drive to Barcelona, that's great. But I bought it, and it's here, and I'm excited. Having had some coffee you brewed, how the heck does it get so light in body? Brewing at 8ish on Pietro with relatively little agitation. I never get quite as tea-like. Wait, I don't know your username. What is your name? Did you come to the studio, or is this at a conference or something? But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe water. Maybe it's the water difference. I do brew pretty tea-like, though. I really like. Here's the thing. The secret to my heart with coffee is I want it to be as tea-like as possible while having as much flavor as possible, which means I need something necessarily to be super light roasted that isn't that soluble, so that I'm not getting too much of those melanoidins in the coffee and things like that that are going to, bolster some of the maybe astringency or maybe some of the more negative tasting parts of the coffee for me, but not for everyone, for me. So I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Serious hot take. Pure national product from second country on shirt is comparable to a really good ristretto or doppio. Wait. There's been a lot of... Okay. Oh, wait. I've lost myself. Okay, here we go. Thanks for... Oh, that's suited. Yeah, I was okay. Is there any reason to get a plastic V60 if I have a Hario switch? No, because you can just leave the bottom open and use a V60. 340 euro for a Specialita on Black Friday. There you go. It's insane at that price. Let's see. There's a lot of comments. I love it. I'm thinking about going for an electric grinder after the EasyPresso JX Pro. What would you recommend for mostly medium roasts and espresso focused? Well, if you have to go electric, that's a pretty hard bar to beat. Here's the thing that I've talked about many times is you have in the coffee sphere, when it comes to grinders, you're going to be able to get a lot more out of a lot less when you get a hand grinder than with electric. And it's very understandable as to why. When you have a hand grinder, you're able to put in you're able to get something this small with as little materials as you need here without an electric motor and without all the different pieces that are a bit expensive and the R&D behind it, etc., in order to get this in like to the market, right? At the same price that this costs to build, you could only do the nuts and bolts of an electric grinder. Then you have to add on the motor and then all the R&D testing and stuff on how it's going to work, the drivetrain, all that crap. The drivetrain is your arm. So you're able to get higher quality at a much cheaper price with a hand grinder. For instance, this is a 64 millimeter flat burr hand grinder from Linglong that I got for 150 bucks. Okay. Like, 150 bucks in a grinder world, you ain't get anything near that quality. That's just not going to happen. So, Yeah, so it's difficult going from a JX because those do such a good job with medium roasted coffees that if you're wanting to get, I mean, you can get, honestly, you can get analogous coffee on like a Brazza Encore ESP or a fellow Opus or something like that. But those, like, they're long customer service. If you're in the US with Brazza, yes, you're going to have longevity, but they are plasticky. They are, built to bruise, so to speak. Then you're like, okay, well, if I don't want something that's expendable, let's look at a little more than that. In which case, again, I would probably go with the Specialita, though they are more expensive in the States if you're there. But for medium roast, they do a great job with espresso. This coffee. And if you're watching and you're not subscribed, you better subscribe. Look, my bicep vein is popping. I had a nice workout today. Let's see. I like doing things that I love doing. Jimi Hedrick. Come on. How do you adjust your manual lever profile for different coffees? How do I adjust my manual lever for different? So, that's such a generalized question, right? That's such a big question. How do you adjust your manual lever profile for different coffees? It really depends on the. So I'm not that. I don't do too many different profiles, I would say. When it comes to, I'm to a point where if I'm drinking an ultralight, I really drink two types of coffees: ultralight or Neapolitan. The one Neapolitan coffee I like, the Saka. If I'm doing the Saka, I can pull it on any espresso machine and make something I like. I'll do manual lever. And honestly, the profile is whatever works with the grind size it's on. That's the beauty of the direct lever is you can save most any grind size with the direct. You can just manipulate it in order to get the shot that you're wanting. If you're using a nice soluble coffee, like a dark roasted coffee. With super light coffees, I usually just pull out my decent espresso machine and because it can heat up in 30 seconds, and I do the low contact or ultra low contact. Now, if I were to do it on another espresso machine, like a direct lever, I would probably still do something really quick. I would blast it real fast with some water and then kind of let it stop for a second and then blast it the rest of the way, like I did in my recent Flair 58 video. So I'm not really profiling really light coffees. Now, I don't really drink much in between the mediums to the lights. But if I were, I'd probably, like what I used to do with those, I did drink them, so actually I can speak to it. But the question, whenever I take questions so literally, you're like, what do you do? It's like present tense. Anyway, with mediums and lights, I usually would just replicate a standard lever style shot, except I wouldn't really let it go as long as normal. I like shots a bit shorter in time. So I would do something that just kind of cascades down. I didn't really do much outside of those, except for, salvaging shots with the lever, which makes it great. Okay. Talk about modding the Pietro to motorize it with a drill. Yeah, that's what I ground this up with. So I actually got this mod from Coffee Gear Lab. It's a guy in my Patreon actually named Aaron. He's got a YouTube, and it's on his YouTube channel, on his Instagram. But it's a very simple little mod. You just take off some things. You have to pull the pressed bearing out, which actually is not hard. It took me 2 thwacks. Granted, probably will take you like 12. But then you put it all back together and you're good to go. And you just take the drill, you put it right onto this, and you're good to go. Now, I've been doing this. I don't mind hand grinding actually at all. I'm doing this just to see the kind of longevity of it and if it's really going to chew up the piece of metal in here. And so far, it's been scratching it, and there are little shavings of metal whenever I'm using it, because using as light a coffee as I do, sometimes it does stall because I don't have. I should probably use my higher torque drill, but I've been too lazy over the last week to go downstairs and get it. So if you had a nice high torque drill that really made a nice connection with the axle in here, you should be good to go. But yeah, I would go look at Coffee Gear Lab. He has a whole video on how to do it. I came out the studio, put my phone on the table, hit play, and I just did it along with him. Easy. Do you know if there is a big taste? Oh, wait. Do you know if there's a big taste difference between a J Ultra and an electric like the Philos for espresso? The Flair is the espresso puff. Do you know if there's a big taste difference between a J Ultra and electric like the Philos first? If you're using Philos with the non-i200D burrs, then I would say no, there's not a huge taste difference. if you're doing the i200D burrs, then yes, there is a big taste difference. And it's because the J Ultra is not really clarity focused. It's more just like a nice blendy, trad type of shot. Whereas the i200D and the Philos is a bit more on the clarity side. It's blendy clarity. It's kind of like a master of all, or I mean, a jack of all, master of none kind of situation. So there is going to be a big taste difference there. You're going to get more zing, more acidity in the Philos with the i200D. But if you use this kind of the normal espresso burrs, it's not going to be that big of a difference, especially if you're not using really light roasts. The thing is, what's great for people who don't like super light roasts is honestly the choices with grinders comes down. It's much easier, and it's because there's not as much gentle nuance that is needed to be sifted through based off of the burr geometry, etc. Okay. And what I mean by that is whenever you're getting a medium to a dark roasted coffee, you don't have loads of like complex florals. Like you're not sitting there and experiencing high concentrations of the chemicals that are producing the volatile organic compounds that give you rose or lilac or jasmine or whatever it might be. They're in much lower concentrations objectively, and the darker you roast a coffee. And a lot of the times what we're trying to do with these burr sets is maintain a lot of those. Okay. So your grinder choice actually becomes a lot less fretful when you're not dealing with the super light roast or even just light roast coffees that rely more on a bigger complex sheet of taste notes, right? Side note, speaking of volatile organic compounds, when I was in Zurich, they have actual concentrations of like 12 of the most common volatile organic compounds that are contributing directly to our flavor perception, concentrated in little vials, and I got to like smell them all. That was an incredible experience that I'm sure I'll talk about in my upcoming video. I did some blind smells on it because there are some. Anyway, we'll get to that later. But it was an incredible experience, and it's not in like the Linnell kit. Like a lot of people might have the Linnell kit, and they're like, "Oh, is it this?" No, it's not that. This is something they are able to extract in their facilities at the Jaw Coffee Science Center. But anyway. The comment section has more bots. Oh, I have not noticed bots. I'm not really looking though. Partner keeps eyeing up the 54 millimeter Dalla Corte machines. Have you ever used one or had any opinions about it? They're great. Super well made. 54 millimeter group head. So, I'm a fan of that. But yeah, they're super well made. I think they're one of the most underrated commercial machines on the market. I need to get a Mina, actually. I've been wanting one for a while. How do I know if my coffee is bad or stale or I'm just not extracting it correctly? I would need a lot more qualifiers to really understand the direction of that question, if that makes sense. I'm going to say the bad or stale, or if I'm just not extracting it. Yeah, that's difficult. Like, because I would need to know what you qualify as bad or stale in your mind, like what bad or stale tastes like to you, and what you are looking for, and also if you have had good coffee from the coffees you've bought, as opposed to maybe buying something because someone else says it's good. Maybe you just don't like the coffee, kind of thing, right? When will you resume posting the Unfiltered as a podcast? I know I need to get that going. It's not even that hard. It's one of those, I've been very open about neurodivergence, my ADHD and anxiety. And some of you who struggle with the same likely will understand this better than those who don't struggle with this. Maybe some of you who don't struggle with it have a partner in this might be illuminating, but there are certain things in life for me that are really small, but facing them seems like Mount Everest. And even though it's a tiny thing that takes seconds, there's a mental block in my mind that makes it really difficult for me to actually complete the task. I know some of you who don't have these issues might be like, just do it. I wish it were that easy, because there are some things I've had massive penalties for not doing, and it's because of this. And then these things kind of bundle up and become worse and worse over time, and multiple things kind of pile together. And then I become like completely depressed, or like I can't move kind of thing. So for whatever reason, one of those things is converting it to a podcast, because I have to go in, I have to like convert it to an MP 3 or 4 or something. I have to like copy and paste it into some Podbean thing, and then I have to like do like a description and like upload it or something. It's not that hard. It really isn't. But for some reason, those steps seem like a million things. Yeah, honestly, the most frustrating time this ever happened was with paychecks. I would get paychecks and I'd have to mobily deposit them because my bank was in another state, and I would just get to a point where I had no money in my bank account at all, and I would be rubbing pennies together. Genuinely, I would like not eat for a couple of days if I didn't have any money, because I had 3 paychecks I needed to cash, and I just wouldn't cash it because I had to open the app. I had to like sign something on the back of the check. I had to take the perfect picture and submit it. And so I would let paychecks stack up and just go broke because it was one of those things. It was like weird anxiety. Another one is posting actually the giveaways. I don't know what it is. Setting up the competition on stream and releasing it is super, and I don't know, it induces a lot of anxiety. So I need to post one. I've said this like for like weeks now. And I said I was going to post the other night and I forgot. But yeah, anyway, sorry about that rant. But I do want to do it. Who does a good job with ultralights? So for Christopher Fran does some ultralights every now and then. He did this for Aviary. He did this ultralight that Nancy Mendoza washed. I actually think it's a little too light, but I'm going to let it keep resting. We're over a month off roast now, but it's still almost insoluble. I can taste that the green is good, but it's quite light. Up in Canada, Kyle Rosell at September does some ultralights, and he does a pretty solid job. He's actually super impressed me. To be honest with you, he's a fellow YouTuber, good friend of mine. Trying to think last time I saw him. I think it was when we got pizza in Milan together. I think it's the last time I saw him in person. But anyway, love Kyle. Super nice, always cheery. When he started roasting, he sent me some coffees, and I just did not like them. I was like, man, this is anyway. And then he sent some more. It weren't that great. And then it was like, I don't know, 6 months later or something. It was like something had clicked, and wow, his coffees were just so much better. So now it just depends on whether or not I like the green. But for the most part, when he does this, like a lighter roasted coffees, I enjoy them quite a bit if I like the green. But like, that doesn't have anything to do with roasting, right? So, how do you pour ultralight roast from the likes of H&S and the Picky Chemist? How do I pour? You mean like how do I pour with my kettle? I usually do a pretty agitated flow, like turbulence. Usually a pretty turbulent flow. I still go coarse. And honestly, a lot of people, there's this huge, I thought we were over this idea of chasing high extractions, but there still seems to be an obsession with, I have a really light coffee, so I need to push extraction for really tasty goods. That's not the case. You don't need to do that. In fact, the higher you go in extraction, the worse the coffee is going to taste based off of the available compounds that are in the coffee as it's coming out. They're objectively, when you keep pushing extraction, the concentration's inverse from good up here, bad down here to this. It genuinely will inverse because the bad ones that make the coffee taste worse start coming out in higher concentrations and outnumber the good ones. So as you keep pushing extraction, that's going to happen. I don't believe in the myth of a good 26% extracted coffee. Now, maybe someone swears that they've had a good one and they're like, want me to try? If I try it and I like it, I'm probably just not going to believe the measurement. I've never had one. I'm not saying they don't. Okay. I'm not saying they don't objectively exist. Of course not. I just don't believe that they exist. Right. I guess I'm agnostic on it, because I can't know. But every time I've tried to push past like 23, it always tastes quite not good. But yeah, I normally live, honestly, with some of the Picky Chemists, I can be at 18.5% and be very happy with how floral it is and tea-like and delicious. When trying roasters, how do we as consumers know how light they actually are? Try to go by felt resistance when manually grinding, but somehow the Ethiopians are always the hardest, so I'm not sure. No, you can't go by how hard it is. It also depends on what you mean by light. If you're talking about color, which Morton Munchow and Coffee Mind Academy has attributed to being the biggest indicator of your taste preference, meaning wherever you are at in a certain color zone of what you typically enjoy, that is going to be a better indicator of whether or not you're going to like a new coffee than anything else. So what that means is we're going to use just a number system like Agtron, which higher number means lighter, lower number means darker. 140 would be a really light coffee, whereas 60 would be a really dark coffee. So if you normally drink coffees in a 110 to 120 range, which is around Tim Wendell Bose coffee, things like that, and fried hats, DAC, whatever. If that's normally where you live, then on a table, the highest likelihood is if there are 6 different coffees and only one of them is in that range, that's the one you're going to like. Even if maybe it's your least favorite processing method, the likelihood of that being the one you like is shown with their data to be the highest likelihood. So if we're talking light in terms of color, you can't go based off of hardness. And that's because different roasters interact differently with the beans. For instance, I was measuring on my Patreon, my Discord the other night, one of the coffees that we roast here at Onyx EU. We use a Typhoon here. Typhoons give you the capability of developing a coffee more without going darker. Sounds counterintuitive, sounds paradoxical almost, but it's reality. So for instance, with our my Finca Soledad Pepe Hihon, with his Sidra that's been, I think it was the Sidra Oxidator. Yes, it was Cyoxy. Nope, it was Cedar Wave. With his Cedar Wave, I have the bag here. We roasted it at 11.08% weight loss. Now, that is that's very low weight loss for people who don't know. Even on like normal roasters, that's a very low weight loss. But people like Substance or the Picky Chemist are consistently going below 11%. But this coffee read lighter on color than any Picky Chemist I've ever read, and is as lighter than most of the Substance that I've gotten. And it's more development. It has more weight loss, I should say, right? So more of the bean had been transformed with the Typhoon than with the others. So this one was actually easier to grind than darker coffees that had less weight loss. Okay, there are darker coffees. The darkness does contribute to a bitterness, right? So there are people who are like, I don't care about the color number. I just care about taste. That's completely valid. But objectively, you are having more melanoidins and different things when a color read is darker. If you have 2 coffees on a table, one is a 140 and one is a 110. The 140 won't taste nearly as bitter from roast as the 110. That's where the color's coming from. For the most part, obviously, you have different greens. If you have a super fermented coffee, it's going to look darker and going to read darker, which won't necessarily be a perfect reflection. But if we're talking washed coffee versus washed coffee. Anyway, let me finish this sip. But yeah, so when you're talking about light, that's not a good way to do it. I would throw out the idea of how light something actually is. Well, no, because you kind of want to know if it's in your wheelhouse. Honestly, when you grind a coffee and smell it, that's honestly all I need whenever I'm checking out coffees to know if it's in my wheelhouse or not. I can, based off of smell. Smell is more important than taste is whenever we are actually computing the flavor of a coffee. Okay, so our palate is informed largely by our nose. So, for instance, you could have someone serve you a cup of hot coffee. If your nose is completely pinched off, there's a good chance you would not know that was coffee if you didn't know what they were bringing you, right? You would just say, this is like bitter and hot. You wouldn't know. And it's because our nose is the majority of our instincts with flavor, okay? So whenever you're grinding up a coffee and smelling it, that's going to give you a large understanding of what it's like, unless it's not well rested. When you have super fresh coffee, everything can taste quite roasty. You can get popcorn smell. You can get like that carbon dioxide. I don't know how to describe it. I just say carbon, even though carbon is a much harsher term than what it actually is. But just in my mind, I have like a smell that connects with carbony. But anyway, so it's kind of difficult until we can all be harmonized on a specific way of presenting color, like a more objective metric like color measurements. It's going to be kind of difficult, and you'll need to just rely, I guess, on people you trust that have tried the coffee, and then if you get a chance to try it yourself, trying to see if there are similar markers to other coffees you enjoy. Okay, I'm seeing someone say about block. Is there someone being a little butt? I heard someone loving that block user feature. Oh no, does someone need to be? Is some? I should probably get a mod on here. We have almost 200 people. I don't know. I can't read all these comments, so I'm. Well, if anyone's being a butt, ignore them. I don't have a mod. I'm not high dollar enough for that. Sorry. If you're new on the stream, subscribe. I'm trying to hit 20,000 on Unfiltered. Okay, that's enough plugging for now. Notice I said for now. Let's see. I'm just scrolling through and seeing what kind of catches because there's so many I can't do them all. What are the differences between sodium and potassium bicarbonate for alkalinity? So obviously the bicarbonate part is not going to be different at all, right? The difference is going to be the flavor that can be imparted through certain amounts of potassium or sodium. So we're talking in terms of cations, right? Whenever you put in sodium bicarbonate, you're putting in sodium and you're putting in bicarbonate essentially because it's going to break up in the actual brewed coffee. And so sodium has the capability of lessening bitterness, which is nice, but it can also bring about, I don't know, with too much of it, can mute some things. It can be a little bit unpleasant. I tend to prefer potassium because whether or not it's true, psychologically, I have convinced myself that it aids in brightness, which is probably just bollocks. But I tend to just use potassium bicarbonate for the most part. Probably because I know like potassium's in certain foods and stuff. Anyway, I don't know. But anyway, it's really the difference between sodium and potassium there. And a lot of people, like Scott Rayo, is a huge fan of sodium bicarbonate. He loves using sodium as opposed to potassium, or at least he used to. That could have changed, of course. But I know whenever we started Lotus, we didn't have sodium bicarbonate. And we added it, some based off of him being insistent on it, though I was wanting to add it anyway. But so yeah. Any ultralight coffee subscriptions that you would recommend? Shameless plug. Onyx. Everything we do is quite light. I would say it's light to some of them are ultra light. And again, I'm saying ultralight based off color because color, when you say light, that is referring to a color. Yeah, obviously. Anyway, but no, I don't really know. I don't do subscriptions. I drink the Picky Chemist. I drink Onyx. I drink Aviary. And that's that. As far as like consistent, that's that pretty much does it. I drink mostly Onyx, of course. Yeah, that pretty much that does it for like my more consistencies, but. A lot of people feel that ADHD thing. I love that. Well, I don't love it. It sucks for you, but would you judge a stable of? Would you judge a stable of the J Ultra, K Ultra, and Pietro as among the most economical ways to approach S tier grinders for most coffees? What level of electric grinders would be the equivalent? Great question. I would actually, yeah. So, yes, yeah. So honestly, just to like. I use the Pietro pretty much daily for filter coffee, even though I have an EG1 to my left, a EK43, Coffee Tech Monolith, and a P100. I think it does more than enough of a job. I'm not saying it's better than any of them. I'm saying it does a good enough job that I don't feel the need to go over and mess with the other grinders. As far as and so I do think it's very expensive. I think $500 is a bit ridiculous. That being said, they are including the base either now or soon, which thank goodness. That was something I was putting my foot down on a couple of years ago when they launched. But anyway, that aside, yeah, whenever it's difficult. Let's say this. There are many multi-$1,000 grinders, unless you switch out the burrs, that cannot compete with a ZP6 or a Pietro on filter. For me, there are lots of, if you're drinking medium or dark roasted coffees, perhaps you won't like either of these. Well, you may like the Pietro with the multi-purpose, but with the Pro Brew, which is what I use, you may not like it at all, and that's completely valid. So for me, and for what I look for in a coffee, in my ridiculous experience with grinders, which it is ridiculous. It is very. It's there's no grinder that is worth its price that can beat the Pietro or the ZP6. Honestly, I don't think so. But then again, value is based off the person. It's very subjective, very personal, right? For me, I could never see, even if I was a multimillionaire, I could never see myself shell. If I was a filter only drinker, I could never see myself shelling out $2,000 for a grinder. If I liked the profile I like over like a ZP6. I couldn't see myself doing that personally with the experience I have. Okay, maybe I would because maybe I'd be really posh if I was a multimillionaire. I'm not one, so I don't know. I'm speculating. This is coming from someone who would live off nothing because he was too anxious to cash in paychecks. But yeah, so they punch well above their weight. And the thing is like earlier, saying the Specialita does a great job. I think the J is essentially just as good. It's great. But I will say, I think you can get to, yeah, it's hard. It's hard because it also depends on what, here's the thing with all of this. It largely depends on what you like, what you want in a coffee, the style of beverage you want. All those things are so important in order to make any type of sweeping generalizations over a grinder. So I can't really do that because people are watching this who might not enjoy a tea-like super complex floral aromatic beverage. They may want a more sturdy, intense fruit, natural with some carbonization about it, caramelization about it that I'm just not into. And so maybe a ZP6 isn't the best. Maybe a K Ultra would be a whole lot better for them. Or even like maybe even who knows, maybe they like the slice to cut geometry on the Timor chestnut. I certainly don't like it, but for someone else that may be perfect for their taste buds. So it all becomes really difficult. I tried to give my perspective on what things taste like as best as I can, regardless of my bias. Of course, I'm going to have bias, but I have tasted with enough people around the world. I think I'm able to speak into generalizations that can be taken with a grain of salt, but not with too big of a grain of salt, right? I think you can, with like a pretty big grain of salt, but a smaller one than I think most people could. So, yeah, it becomes difficult there. Have you any good podcasts or books about ADHD? My 5-year-old son just got diagnosed with it, and I really want to learn more about it. I do not actually. It's been years of actually I do a lot of I follow like I can't even find their name. I don't know their names off the top of my head because they just show up in my feed. But there are different like doctors that you can follow online that post very often. Really nice reels and posts and stuff that you can read about ADHD. And then whenever they do that, the ones I follow tend to also post papers that go with it. And I usually will end up finding the paper and reading it. And so I don't have off the top of my head any resources because it's always just like, I mean, it's ADHD. I'm like squirrel, right? I don't know off the top of my head. There are things I know off the top of my head that I shouldn't off the top of my head. And then things that are helpful like this, I don't know off the top of my head. But I went my whole childhood knowing I had ADHD. I mean, ever since I was 7, I think, I've known I had ADHD, was never medicated. My parents did not want me medicated. I don't know. They said something about not wanting me to be a zombie. So I was never medicated, had lots of trouble, disciplinary trouble throughout all of school. And it wasn't until the end of college, beginning of graduate school, where I really started to understand what ADHD was, and I understood a lot more about myself because of it, and I was able to kind of channel it. But yeah, and now it's like a superpower, though it is very inconvenient at many, many times. Uh-oh. Someone said is uh someone said is it wait a second. I lost where I was at. Okay. We're back to the block user feature. You know what? I'm going to, I found out how I can make someone a moderator. I'm going to late moderate someone. Let's see. Is Maria still on here? That's the first person that comes to mind. Let's see. David Tamang, I see your Patreon. I'm not going to ask your permission. You're now moderator. If you see something, okay, there we go. There we go. Oh, Maria is here. Maria, you're also a moderator. Now we've got 2 moderators. Boom. Okay, y'all are both moderators. Okay, now we have 2 moderators. So if there's any issues that I'm missing, Maria and David are mods. Nice. Okay, let's see here. All right. Should people be allowed to watch live streams wasted? Oh my God, I guess that's the person. Okay, Lance, were you double blind tasting at Lotus with regard to the sodium bicarb? No, not with. Actually, let me think. I did double blind tasting when I was creating my recipes, but when I was comparing the different ones, I can't recall if I did or didn't. To be honest with you, I'm trying to think. I don't think I did for when I was comparing. Well, I mean, technically, yes, because when I was creating my those recipes like light and bright and sweet and whatever, I was blind, and so yes, there were technically that was technically blind when I was using sodium for some and potassium for some, but I can't for the life of me recall, if I sat there and was going, oh, this is attributed to that, because I never did it alone, right? It was always in combination with something else as I was creating the recipes. Did you think that in case of a too fresh coffee, a blind shaker can help? I think it maybe can help a little, but I don't think it's going to do as much as some people might think. But yeah, April Fool's was epic. Oh, thank you. New Pasado shower screen. It doesn't look. I don't know. It looks maybe okay. I have not tried it. I got the dimples and freckles from. For more academic ADHD stuff, check out Cooley and Russell Barkley. There we go. I want to build a slow bar commercial in addition to our regular production bar. If you were me, what grinder and espresso machine will you get? Burr upgrade. I want to build a slow bar. Slow bar. Well, if you're doing a slow bar, that would not be an espresso machine, right? A slow bar typically implies just pour over. If you were me, what grinder and espresso machine would you get? So I would need to know what kind of coffee you serve, what your consumers expect from your shop as far as like how you serve things. It's difficult to make a suggestion because with the grinder, it usually I recommend an EK if you're high volume. I do not recommend the Omni. I recommend the EK43. Yes, they will come potentially with alignment issues, but they still have solid taste even with that, and they are going to last 40 years. So I still tend to recommend those to places with high volume. If you're not high volume and you have the budget for an EK, there are other options, but it depends on what you're trying to serve and if you're using an espresso machine or not, if it's a slow bar or not, right? What kind of pour-over dripper do you use, Lance? V60. I'm new to it, and I'd love to try whatever you're rocking with. Yeah, V60. Honestly, I would probably like you can get the plastic for really cheap, and it's typically what I use. But I really like ceramic as well, and the glass is great as well. They're all slightly different, but like plastic. I originally got plastic because I had this. When I originally bought these, I was still in this kind of days of we need to maximize everything as opposed to optimize, right? So I was maximizing thermal stability, which is not necessary. It's actually fine for temperature to just go away as you're extracting. Really, once you get that hot water in there and you know, it's going to be fine. You don't need to have some sort of insanely high bed temperature, slurry temperature in order to get the good goods out. So yeah, a ceramic one, a glass one, both are really nice. There's the metal one works well as well. I don't really like the connection of the metal to the rubber though, and that rubber becomes annoying to clean for me. So honestly, for me, it's more of a pesky thing. But yeah, the ceramic one is all one piece, and they feel quite nice. And then the glass, it does that one's also kind of wobbly. It can get pretty wobbly between the holder of it and the actual V60, but I like V60s. How do you know if a coffee needs more rest, or if it's just bad, or if the recipe or brew method is bad for the beans? Yeah, that's a good question. So with coffee needing more rest, it's hard to articulate this because there's a very specific roast taste that happens whenever a coffee is too fresh. And this roast taste tends to be kind of bitter, kind of biting. It's kind of like the bitterness in a carbonated water. That's the best way I can kind of think of it, because there's carbon dioxide in water, in carbonated water. And so when you have kind of sparkly water, there's that like kind of bitterness thing. It's like if you were to brew coffee with carbonated water and taste it, like that's giving you a freshness, something akin to a freshness in the roast. So if you are grinding and that's happening, or if there's like an excessive amount of gas escaping during your bloom, or if you're going a lot coarser on an espresso, that's likely because there's a ton of gas trapped in there that's slowing down the extraction. To know whether or not it's a good or bad recipe is just cupping it. If something tastes bad on the cupping table, it's not going to taste good. You're not going to do some sort of magic trick to make it taste good in a pour over. But at least in my experience, I've never had a bad coffee on the cupping table taste magically good in a pour over. Now, I'm sure people are going to say otherwise, and that's fine. I'm saying for me, I have never experienced that. If I don't like something on a cupping table, I have never enjoyed it elsewhere. Okay. Yeah, and yeah, okay, sorry. 9 barista review. Yes, I'll review it. I've been meaning to. It's been sitting on my shelf. I just forget. EA decaf in the States. I've been trouble finding it. I love EA. EA is incredible. As far as like the normal decaffeinations go, absolutely. That is ethyl acetate's incredible. I've not tried coffee from Saudi Arabia. No. Is there a huge difference between plastic and porcelain tasting cups? Is the prominence of plastic ones just because they can take more of a beating in a commercial setting? Cups. You mean to drink from? I've actually never, I don't think I've ever seen plastic cups, unless you're talking about takeaway for iced beverages. I don't think I've ever seen plastic cups in a commercial setting. I normally just see ceramic or glass. V60 as compared to the Mugen. I mean, V60. Mugen, it restricts the flow too much. EG1 versus upgraded burrs on UK. Any chance to see Pietro burrs in another grinder? I think someone's trying to get a modification for the VS6 to have them fit, but I don't know. September has had good decaf. Someone said something about that. They've had some good ones, I think from Wilton Benitez even. What's your coffee morning routine? So when I wake up, I don't immediately come and brew coffee. Because I like to enjoy my first cup. And when I first get up, I just brushed my teeth. I've got, mint in my mouth. I don't want coffee on top of that. So I get up, I will, I don't know. It depends on the day, because I don't have a normal schedule, because I sleep when I can sleep, because I don't have a consistent sleep schedule. I don't sleep very well. So when I can sleep, I'll sleep. And so sometimes I'm up at, 7 a.m. Sometimes I'm up at 11 a.m. if I go to bed at 5 a.m. So it just kind of depends. If I wake up later, then the first thing I do is probably just make some food. I'll make some eggs and oats and blueberries, and and kind of eat that and chill for a bit, and then I'll make a coffee. Or if I wake up a bit earlier, um, I'll chug a lot of water to get the mint out of my mouth, and maybe I will just brew a cup for the early morning. But there's not really a morning routine, sadly, because life's crazy. Do you brew lighter roast decaf at the same time as darker roast decaf? I just don't do dark roast decaf. I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy it. Candy like sweetness was that Rika Fika and tested in a noisy apartment was devastated. Have the lowest water to supplement my coffee. Okay, so getting candy like sweetness is very difficult unless it's imparted through alternative means like co-fermentation or something like that. In fact, the sugars, the polysaccharides that are known to give sweetness in big quantities are at quantities in coffee that are below our perception threshold. Okay. What that means is when you taste coffee and it tastes sweet, it's not sugars that are giving you that sweetness. Actually, in sensory science, they don't know what's actually causing the perception of sweetness. So if you're getting a candy-like sweetness, it is likely due to heavy processing. So you need to get a coffee that's heavily processed and just not allow too much to affect that. So you don't want to push extraction at all. You want the process to speak, under extract it purposefully, cool water, coarse grounds, things like that, fast drawdown. And then you can use, as a lot of these competitors will use 150 to 180 ppm of general hardness to really supplement and add sweetness, complexity, things like that, of like magnesium. And then we'll use like next to no bicarbonate to let the acidity just go crazy, right? So it's difficult, but the first thing is to buy a coffee that is probably co-fermented or something. How long does the stock last before you freeze it? Does it go scale? Does it stale? No, actually, it lasts. Like honestly, I like it sitting around for a few weeks and it's fine. I don't freeze it. I love it. Love your work as a cafe owner and coffee obsessed person. Is there any chance you'll start reviewing cafe equipment? There's so much bad cafe equipment. Big brands need more scrutiny. Here's the thing. I am on the thing. Like you all see what I do publicly. I do a lot more. I know it's kind of shocking. Not to toot my horn. I know I do a lot of stuff. I do more stuff in the background. I am constantly in the ears of these manufacturers trying to get them to make changes. The issue is whenever I do this, they are so quick to try and recruit me to fix it for them. And I'm not going to do that. And then they just have no incentive to do anything. And the issue is because no one is forcing them to. Now, I don't have enough power. The fact of the matter is no one is doing it, and so there's no incentive for anyone to do it, and so they're not. There is one grinder in the commercial space that I think is good, but it is over-engineered and overpriced. Well, actually, it's not overpriced for how they make it. It's over-engineered, therefore it demands a really high price. That's silly, and that's the Sanremo X1. I genuinely think that is the only passable commercial grinder, genuinely out of the box, the only one that is actually decent. And it's sad because everything else I think is utter crap. And that's kind of why I don't review it, because they're all crap. Genuinely, they just are crap. They're crap. But I've been, I would say at this point, 4 major grinding companies have attempted to recruit me in order to change their grinders. In fact, one time I was at a place and it was like I won't name names, but it was kind of funny because it seemed like it was a sneak attack. Like they had grinders set up in a room that I didn't know were going to be there, and their engineers were there, and it was like a sneak attack. Like, all right, what do we need to do? We'll do whatever you say. I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous. Thank you, Toth. Hi, what's your opinion about the Arkel machine? So, fun fact, Arkel is literally where I'm standing right now. If I got in my car, which is 20 meters away, and drove 8 minutes, I would be at their factory. That's kind of cool. still got concern. Looks also still got concern. Should I get that or the micro? Love your work. All the best. Yeah, I need to see their final edition. So I went over there about a year ago. I don't remember when. Time isn't real. I went over there at some point and checked it out, and it looked very, very well built. Granted, it's still a boiler machine, which, it is what it is, but it looked very well built. But it's entering the sphere of, the Lolita Elizabeth, the Breville Dual Boiler, the Rencilia Silvia Pro, the Profitec Move, you have all of these competitors in the Micra in that same kind of realm with the dual boiler. So I can't say right now because I've not actually touched the final product, sadly. Oh, cupping bowls for plastic. It's because they are they're easy to stack. Like I have them here. You can't see them. They're off camera, but I was cupping earlier. And so there they are. It's because they are easy to stack. They don't break. The biggest thing is space. They're easy to stack. So I can stack like 20 in a stack this high, whereas normal ceramic cupping bowls, 20 would be like this. Okay. It's largely is that. But also, it's just me doing all this. And so I want them, if I'm doing a big table, I would like them to keep heat a little bit longer, personally. So what do you think of chill extraction for espresso? How much percentage of the shot? I think that it can be okay for some coffees and not okay for others. The fact is, the paper or the good grief, Lance, say they 1,000 more times. Okay. Actually, I need some water because after doing that, I realized just how parched I was. Here's a cup. Here's some water. Okay. Money. All right. Chill extraction. So chill extraction is effective. That has been proven. There's no question it's effective in that it does retain volatile organic compounds. Done. That is accurate. The question is, those volatile organic compounds that we normally lose that are there then retained with chill extraction, are they ones we want? And a lot of the time, no. So the ones that have been recognized as being the ones we keep on are also ones that are typically not desirable volatile organic compounds. What does this mean? It does not mean that you should never do chill extraction, because it doesn't mean that they'll always taste bad. It doesn't mean that they're always going to complement the coffee in a negative way. What it does mean is it is not always good. Okay? It's not always a good thing. It's not a fix-it thing for everything. Now, to do this, you just want to use it in the first 20% of the extraction or so. So the first like 8 grams or something along those lines. That's where it's really happening, unless you just want the whole shot to cool down, which is fine. Oh, thank you, Maldoror. What about the Roxy espresso machine? Oh, yes. I don't have it, but I have definitely checked it out, and I want to get one. Are they actually selling now? I'm not sure. I need to check on that. Uh-oh, my phone's not plugged in. Is it going to die because I'm on a hotspot? Oh, I got that just in time. Oh, my Lanta. Oh, my Lanta. Woo, with 5% left. Woo, okay. But yes, I want to get a Roxy. I didn't. If they're selling, I'll buy one. I didn't know. I did just buy a Gaja GT. I know there are reviews coming out, but y'all know me. I was waiting to buy one, and I bought one. So I will be reviewing that. I'll be honest with you. I don't have high hopes. Not because I don't think it'll be good. I just think it seems to be way overpriced and under delivering for that price, especially considering Gaja. It's like, what are you doing? They're doing pre-order batches. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. Wug or Zerno, can't make up my mind. That is a difficult question. That is a difficult question because they're both great. Now, I would do the Wug. I would. And it's because I think the 80 millimeter burr, I think that is where size starts to really matter. So, yes, I think 64 punches way above its weight, especially in a Zerno. I do. But 80 is like next level. and is like one of my favorite burr sizes. I love 80. The options are insane. Have you used FM grinder? No, I almost bought one and I ended up not. It seemed a little too niche still. It's a little too niche for how much money I'd have to spend. And I do niche things. That's the thing. Are you going to review the Spiritello? I don't know. It's hard because I love Case Van der Westen. I love his design. I love the history. I love the build quality. I just wish it wasn't a 58 millimeter portafilter. It's frustrating to me. How varied can cuppings taste between grinders of different qualities, such as the Opus? Oh, very much so. Can the coffee be perceived as bad solely due to the grinder? Absolutely, it could be. Yes, it can be. Yes, that's true. Yeah, cupping can absolutely show issues in coffees. So if you, so it could be that. If you're the one who asked that question earlier about what it could be if it was stale or whatever. Say more about the San Remo you mentioned. Yeah, so I mean it's a great grinder. It's got blind burrs in there that are DLC coded. The thing that's stupid is it has 2 hoppers. Why? No, that's stupid. 2 hoppers, no. If someone is using it for their house espresso, they're not going to have time to switch over to a different coffee. Like they're just going to be going bang, 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 bang. They're not going to, in a rush, switch. You put that in an Australian cafe, they're never touching the other hopper. It's just a waste. And the thing is, you may think, oh, well, can they just, why is that a big deal? Well, it's because it's actually a big cost. Both hoppers have dose by weight technology, which I actually love. It's better than grind by weight, way better. And it's because it doses using a stepped motor into a chamber, and then that chamber drops the beans into the burr chamber, which means you're single dosing every shot, which means it's not bean fed, which means you're getting better particle size distribution and more consistent distribution every single shot, from shot to shot to shot to shot, as opposed to beans being caught in the burrs. They worked really hard on little to no retention, and it shoots it all through every time. It also means that it is starting the burrs spin, then the beans drop in. So everything about it is great. But because they have the step motors on both hoppers, that's a big cost that's being added to it. It's bigger because of that. And so the cost of the materials are more because there's more materials. There's also a single hopper in the front. You can bypass the actual hoppers themselves. You can buy single dosing, but yeah, it's nice. It's just expensive as all friggin' get out. Did you see the Sharder flat 64 for 139? I saw someone say flat burr for 139. Who was it? Someone posted about it, but I didn't really. I was just like, oh yeah, I'm not surprised. For a coffee you buy, do you cup them or just get straight to brewing? I usually go. The coffees I buy for myself, I go straight to brewing because I'm pretty confident that they're going to be that they should be good. So if I brew them and I don't like them, the likelihood is they weren't good on the cupping table either. If I really don't like it and it's a friend, then I will cup it to get feedback. But yeah. Tom. Yeah, that's who I saw it from, Tom. That's right. Tom's Coffee Corner. Go follow him if you haven't. Go sub to Tom, one of the greats. Yeah, he's great. And sub to Unfiltered, the one you're on now if you're not already. Silly kids. Because you know, do for espresso on Q2. I don't really do espresso on Q2 at Tagalog, or I don't typically, so I don't know, honestly. Need to focus on work. Thanks. See you, Jonathan. Sweet. Well, it looks like we are starting to go down. So unless I get a barrage of questions, we may wind down because it's been about an hour and 18 minutes. But I'm happy to keep going because I don't know how many subs we're at, but I'm hoping we gain some during this because I want to hit 20,000. I don't know why. Numbers are just numbers, but it is reflective of a cool community we're creating on this live stream. And again, also, I would like some thoughts. Do you think it would be cool if I did that idea of kind of like live streaming at these events? I go and I travel all the time, and it'd be very easy to bring a gimbal with me. I'm not someone that's going to have a big old camera on a tripod and try to figure out how to stream from a camera to a computer, and that's too much. But if I could just get a gimbal, phone, Rode, and then I could bring you around to like Expo, or if I do a cafe takeover or something, just have little, funsy things. If that's like a thing, that would be fun. I'm happy to do that. That's something I was thinking would be fun because it also, selfishly, I also get really overwhelmed in those situations. lots of people talking, lots of stuff going on, and it's kind of like taking a fake phone call, right? If I'm like, oh, I'm streaming, that would I would prefer to be embarrassed that I'm a dude streaming than have to deal with some of the social situations that I might have to be in. So, yeah. Coffee East. Oh, I saw that was going on. I didn't go. I don't know if anyone anything like that. Oh, I don't know. Collabs with Brian Quan. I do want to go and visit the Bay Area, boys. That would be fun. Grinders to find your preference. There's a lot. There's a lot. It depends on if you're a filter espresso person. It depends on. It's just a lot. But honestly, I would start off if you have limited time by brewing the way you like, and being kind of similar brews, and then making tweaks so they both taste as good as they can from each respective grinder, and blind taste them. Blind is the most important thing. I'm loving to see all the. Of course, I want confirmation bias. I'm screaming to an echo chamber. Tell me to live stream. I love it. 40 millimeter flare original baskets. Do you know an? No, I don't know of any precision. Probably have some goals to be there in person, which probably shouldn't compromise. Honestly, it's a long expo, so it would give me something to do. That's kind of what I was thinking about it. Is I'm expected to be there the whole time, and I'm like, and so no, actually, I want to do it. It would be something I'd like to do. So if people are wanting it, or like that would be fun, and it's not just me talking to no one, then I would enjoy it. Yeah. The audio should be good. It'll be video though on a phone. But like I said, I want to get a gimbal so at least it's steady. But yeah. Lagoma one just came out with the pre-breakers. Yeah, I saw that. I'm trying to get one. Yes, you're streaming. Love it. Thank you, Mark, for the Weber SG2 review. LOL. Following up on the commercial equipment, are these manufacturers asking for more than consumer manufacturers ask for, as in they won't send you an E6 because they don't want to agree with terms? Oh, I don't receive free grinders, right? So I did. Okay. I say that, and I just presented the Omnia, which I did get for free. So I do want to explain that again, just in case it was unclear in the Omnia video. I made a video in 2024, I believe in January, where I declared I would start buying all equipment going forward, unless it was a ridiculously expensive espresso machine like a Monument. I would take that on loan if people wanted me to review it, or something, that's like $10,000 or something. Well, I believe it was October or November of 2023, so a few months before that, Malkunig had reached out and said they were going to send me an Omnia, and I said, okay. Didn't hear back. And then boom, a year later, it showed up on my doorstep. I'm kid you not. It just showed up. Okay. So it did come free. I agreed to it before I made that video, so I didn't want to seem hypocritical. So I wanted to explain it. I'm really glad I didn't pay for it though. But no, I just don't receive them free anyway. Yeah. Kinu Pourover Burr versus CP6. I personally prefer the ZP6. There are a lot of people who prefer the Kinu Pourover Burr, which is great. To me, it's a little too blendy. And there are people who say you have to do certain recipes with it, certain water with it, which I think is honestly, personally, I think that's I think it's a bit silly. But yeah, I prefer ZP6 for how I brew, how I like my coffees. I like the Kinu Pourover Burr is really good. It is a top 3. I would say for me, it goes Pietro, ZP6, Kinu Pourover. And then everything else is far below for me. Gosh, GT sounds promising, but that Dessing is that price? I don't know. The new compulsory meta of high dose switch bypass. It's the same thing as AeroPress. It's just trying to get less cloudiness. I just recommend people use very slow press on the AeroPress. Just bought an E61 saturated group head. Oh, wait. Thanks for all the info, sir. Thank you for the little tip. The tippy tip. I like that. That sounded way different coming out of my mouth than the half of a second it was in my head before coming out. But thank you. September and Colorful, I've been putting out killer decaf. Yes, I got a great one from Colorful. I don't remember what it was, though, but it was great. reverse osmosis recommendations. I use BWT, does a great job. You can control it on your phone through Bluetooth. It's great. I think you taste a lot of shots and barista comp. Honestly, do you think that home enthusiasts with good grinder, good water, 49 milliliter basket, and 88 plus coffee can match this kind of shots quality? Yes, you can way surpass it. The thing is, in barista comps, the coffees they're using in these barista competitions when they taste really nice is coffee that you could literally spit on. And the extraction from the coffee and your saliva would taste really good. Okay, that's the thing. They're using 100, 2, 3, 4, 5, $600 a kilo, up to 10,000 euros a kilo coffee in these competitions, depending on what company or country you're coming from. So, yeah, and the coffees are fine. The thing is, I don't actually enjoy espressos for the most part. They're always way too sharp. Way too sharp. It's because they're trying to make their tasting notes very obvious to the judges. So they make this insane acidity that honestly I cannot handle. It is whenever people are asking me to come try their espresso, I'll do it because I can give them flavor notes, and I have a pretty good track record with flavor notes in competitions, whether it's barista or brewers. But I do not enjoy it. It is so sharp. I feel like I'm gonna get blisters on my tongue. Well, what do I use for decent? I always use Pavlis for everything. I just post mineralize. So 45 to 60 ppm of potassium bicarbonate. Usually on the decent, it's closer to 60 because I only do super light roasts on it. So to kind of curb the potential crazy acidity from the style of shots I pull. How did you source coffee when competing in brewers? Well, my 2 years I competed just twice ever. I've coached a lot more seasons than I've competed. I got third and then second in the US. I was very privileged to be working for Onyx, which is one of the giants of competing around the world. So, we have a great pipeline of coffees. And so the first year I competed, we had at the time, La Palma coffees were kind of apexed and were really, really nice and unique. And not saying they aren't now, but at the time they were very unique and compared to others. And I went down to their farm and chose my coffee. The next year, I just used the same coffee Andrea did for barista. I just didn't have much time that year to go and do all the stuff. And so I used the GXO from Cafe Granja. La Esperanza, and it was really nice. But yeah, so I was very privileged working for a company that has access to a lot of these. I'm at 51 GH 25 KH for V60. That's great. I mean, I think that's good. I personally might go down in the KH a bit, but I think that's great. Do you prefer the Pietro burrs over the Timor 078 burrs? It's difficult. I would say right now I'm in a zone where yes, I do prefer the Pietro because I think they're even more sharp and clinical than the Timor, which I've been really liking with these super light roasts. It's been really fantastic for me. Love you, Brian. I don't know how to say your last name, but I'm going to try Godoy. Alternative for EK43 Omnia for a small roastery that wants to sell ground coffee as well. If it's small, honestly, the Timor 078, that thing can keep up. It can. It is under $1,000, and it can do it. If you want a more commercial one that is more expensive, the Ditting does a great job. The Ditting filter, the Ditting Lab Swede. Well, I guess the Ditting filter would be easier because it's actually made to grind bags, but you don't need that. I think the Timor. Actually, no, I take it back. I'm sorry. If you're grinding bags, nope, because the hopper's a little baby. Hopper's bad, and actually it'll get a lot of buildup at the exit. I was just thinking the fact that it can